Captain Ethan Rourke's boots clicked softly against the polished floor of the Zetherian capital ship. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls shimmered in soft shades of blue and silver, with patterns that seemed to shift like living water. Human eyes often searched for symmetry or structure, but the Zetherian seemed to think in flowing forms, curves that spoke a language humans could not read. Ethan felt a mix of awe and nervousness. This was the first official contact between humans and the Zetherians, a species far older and more advanced than any humans had encountered before. He glanced at the other members of the human delegation. Ambassador Karen Liu tried to maintain her calm, though the tight grip on her translator pad betrayed her nerves. Lieutenant Marco Silva adjusted his uniform for the third time, muttering under his breath. Ethan knew he looked just as tense, but nothing could prepare him for what he would see in a few moments. At the far end of the grand hall, a figure appeared. The light seemed to bend around her as if the air itself admired her. Ethan froze mid-step. The Zetherian princess. Her skin had a pearlescent glow, subtle but mesmerizing. Her eyes were large and calm, the color of liquid silver. She moved with a grace that felt almost unreal, like a flowing river of thought in motion. Humans were not supposed to be intimidated by aliens, but in that moment, Ethan's training and composure evaporated. His heart pounded. He had read thousands of pages of reports about Zetherian anatomy, culture, and psychology. But no manual could have prepared him for this. She was beautiful, in every sense. And most dangerously, she was real. Ethan's mind scrambled. Words that he had rehearsed for weeks abandoned him entirely. Ambassadors and scientists were supposed to greet the princess formally, using careful diplomacy and structured phrases. Ethan knew that. And yet, as she came closer, something inside him overrode the rules. Something very human. "You're so beautiful, I can't speak," he blurted out. The hall went still. Not even the soft hum of Zetherian ambient energy could be heard. Princess Lyra froze in mid-step, her head tilting slightly. Her expression was unreadable. Her advisors, standing behind her in their rigid, angular forms, exchanged glances, their translator devices quietly whirring as they processed Ethan's words. Shock, confusion, intrigue. Ethan's heart sank. Had he just made a diplomatic disaster of the century? Then slowly Lyra's eyes narrowed, not in anger but in thought. Something about this human's words, something unexpected. The Zetherians valued logic, order, and reason above all else. Emotion was considered inefficient, sometimes even dangerous. And yet here was a human openly expressing admiration. And something more. A raw, uncontrolled honesty that Zetherians did not understand. The head advisor stepped forward, voice smooth and mechanical. "Princess Lyra," he said, "the human, Captain Rourke, has spoken a statement we are analyzing. Its meaning is unclear." Lyra's gaze remained fixed on Ethan. There was a pause, a long one. In human terms, it felt like eternity. Ethan's face flushed. He stumbled over his next words. He shook his head, realizing it made no difference. Humans had a tendency to ramble when nervous. Apparently, so did he. Karen nudged him gently. "Stick to the plan, Ethan," she whispered. But he hardly heard her. His focus was entirely on Lyra. There was something about the way she tilted her head, the almost imperceptible shimmer in her eyes, that made him feel both exposed and alive. Finally, Lyra spoke. Her voice was soft but firm, like a stream of water cutting through stone. "Human, you express concepts without precision. Yet I perceive curiosity. You do not hide your feelings." Ethan blinked. He had expected confusion, fear, maybe even anger. "But this was different." She was analyzing him, trying to understand. A part of him, the human part that thrived on challenge and connection, felt a spark of hope. "Yes," he said finally, finding a bit of courage. "Humans, we speak with what we feel. Sometimes it's strange or messy, but it's honest. That's who we are." Lyra's advisors murmured among themselves, their voices low and clipped. It was unusual for them to witness such unpredictability. Their princess had never encountered a being who could defy expectation so casually. Humans, they realized, were not just another intelligent species, they were something different. The hall quieted again as the human team was invited to step forward. Ethan followed, still caught in a swirl of nerves and fascination. He observed the Zetherian court carefully. Their uniforms were angular and metallic, reflecting the soft light. and their movements were precise, like machinery in perfect harmony. In contrast, humans moved freely, often awkwardly, yet with a kind of confidence that came from creativity and intuition, rather than strict programming. Lyra spoke again. "Captain Rourke, your statement, while perplexing, is noted. I request you remain with us for further observation." Ethan's mind raced. Observation? Was he being detained? Karen leaned close, whispering, "I think she's interested." "That's good." "Yes," Ethan said, trying to steady his voice. "I'd be honored." For the rest of the ceremony, he noticed how Lyra's gaze seemed to follow him, not in scrutiny alone, but with genuine curiosity. Every move he made, every human quirk, the way he stumbled slightly over the alien steps, the way he gestured unconsciously, was noted. Unlike the Zytherians, humans were unpredictable, and that unpredictability, he realized, was drawing her interest. After the formal introductions, the delegation was led to a side chamber for discussion. Here Ethan had a moment to breathe and reflect. Humans often underestimated themselves in the galaxy. They had fewer technological advancements compared to species like the Zytherians. They were slower in some ways, weaker in others. But in this one moment he felt the raw power of human nature: honesty, courage, and emotional openness. These were traits that could not be measured by algorithms or technology. He smiled quietly to himself. Maybe humans were not just survivors in this vast galaxy. Maybe, just maybe, they were capable of impressing even the most advanced species. Across the room, Lyra watched silently, her expression calm, yet inquisitive. Humans fascinated her. Unlike her people, who valued certainty and control above all, humans acted in ways she could not predict. Their behavior was chaotic, yet somehow effective. There was a spark in their imperfection, a spark she found strangely compelling. The meeting began formally, with translators activating and voices exchanging protocol-driven words. But Ethan noticed something subtle. Lyra occasionally glanced at him with a softness that had no place in Zytherian decorum. Her advisors noted it too, though none could fully understand it. The princess was learning. Slowly, she was learning that there was power in human emotion, strength in spontaneity, beauty in imperfection. By the end of the day, the humans were invited to dine with the princess in a smaller private chamber. Ethan, still overwhelmed, realized that he was being given a rare opportunity. Humans were normally considered too emotional, too unpredictable, too primitive for meaningful interaction at this level. Yet here they were, welcomed, observed, and perhaps appreciated. As he entered the dining chamber, he caught a final glimpse of Lyra. She paused mid-step. Head slightly tilted and a faint shimmer ran across her eyes. He felt a strange thrill. That pause, the pause that had begun in shock, was not confusion anymore. It was curiosity. And curiosity, Ethan knew, could turn into understanding. He took a deep breath. This was humanity's first real step into a wider galaxy, and somehow in that moment he felt that humans were not just participants. They might just change the way the galaxy saw them. He sat down across from the princess, still nervous, still fascinated. And he realized with a quiet smile that this encounter, the words he had spoken, the emotions he had shown, might be the beginning of something much bigger than himself. Something that could redefine what humans were capable of in the eyes of the stars. The next morning, the human delegation awoke to the soft hum of the Zytherian ship. It was unlike any sound on Earth, an almost musical vibration, gentle yet powerful, echoing through the corridors and walls. Ethan Rourke ran a hand over his face, trying to shake off the fatigue. The previous day's events kept replaying in his mind. One simple sentence, one human instinct, had caused a pause in the alien princess, something that no diplomat, scientist, or translator could have predicted. He sat at the table in the delegation's quarters with Ambassador Liu and Lieutenant Silva. "Do you think I really just startled her?" Ethan asked, voice low, more to himself than anyone else. Karen Liu adjusted her glasses, her expression thoughtful. "You didn't just startle her, Ethan. You did something that humans have been known for but aliens rarely understand. You showed emotion, honest, unfiltered emotion." Marco Silva snorted. "So basically you embarrassed yourself in front of a princess and it somehow worked?" Ethan gave him a pointed look. It wasn't embarrassment. It was human honesty, and apparently it's something they can't calculate. Karen nodded. "Exactly. Zytherians are brilliant, yes. But their brilliance is in logic, control, and efficiency. They analyze, they predict, they follow patterns. Humans, we don't always follow patterns. That's why we're interesting to them. Ethan leaned back, considering her words. He had always thought humans were at a disadvantage in a galaxy dominated by species with superior technology and advanced cognition. But perhaps, just perhaps, there was something that humans had that no machine, no algorithm, and no alien species could replicate: spontaneity, feeling, the courage to act without complete certainty. Before he could dwell on the thought too long, a soft chime echoed through their quarters. The translator pad on the table activated, displaying a message in multiple languages. Ethan read aloud, "Princess Lyra requests the presence of the human delegation in the observation chamber." Karen exchanged a glance with Ethan. Observation chamber? Sounds official, and she's probably not expecting small talk, Ethan shrugged. We better go before she thinks we're ignoring her. The humans were guided through the ship, moving from one elegant chamber to another. The corridors seemed alive, shimmering with subtle energy flows that twisted and turned with an almost artistic rhythm. Yet despite the alien beauty, Ethan's attention remained focused on the thought of Princess Lyra. The way she had paused at his words, the faint shimmer in her eyes. There was something unusual about her reaction. Something that hinted she might see humans differently than other species. When they arrived at the observation chamber, the humans were led to a wide, transparent platform overlooking the ship's central engine array. Engineers, advisors, and diplomats surrounded Princess Lyra, each speaking in calm, controlled tones. The princess herself stood slightly apart, her posture perfect, yet her eyes seemed curious. Lyra spoke directly to Ethan, her voice soft but deliberate. "Human, your words yesterday, though illogical to my people, have left a lasting impression. We are observing you further to understand your behavior." Ethan swallowed, trying to maintain composure. I understand, and I hope we can explain ourselves properly." Lyra tilted her head, her silver eyes narrowing slightly. "Explain, yes, but understand human behavior is unpredictable. I am interested in its effects." Karen stepped forward, smoothing her translator pad. "Princess, humans often act on emotion. We value honesty, creativity, and sometimes risk-taking, even when logic might suggest caution." The advisors murmured among themselves, recording every word. To them, this was fascinating, chaotic yet efficient in its own way. They were used to civilizations that measured outcomes, weighed probabilities, and followed strict procedures. Humans did not always do so, and yet, despite their apparent inefficiency, humans could accomplish remarkable things. Lyra's gaze returned to Ethan. "Yesterday, you expressed admiration in a way that was spontaneous. I have never encountered such directness. Why do you act without calculation?" Ethan smiled faintly, realizing that here was an opportunity to reveal something fundamental about humanity. "Because sometimes," he said slowly, "it's the right thing to do. Sometimes logic can't explain everything. Humans believe in honesty, in taking risks, in expressing what we feel even if it's uncertain. That's what makes us human." A quiet hum passed through the chamber as the advisors processed his words. For a species built on precision, it was a concept they struggled to quantify. Lyra, however, seemed to understand at a level beyond their calculations. Something about this human, about humans in general, was beginning to resonate with her. The princess motioned to a holographic display, showing simulations of various scenarios. "Observe," she said. "In these simulations, humans act unpredictably, often inefficient, yet outcomes sometimes exceed expectations." Ethan leaned closer, intrigued. "Yes, that's because humans adapt. We improvise. We rely on intuition, on creativity, on collaboration. We can't always explain it logically, but it works." Lyra's eyes shimmered, reflecting the holographic images. "Intriguing. Efficiency is measured by outcome in my people. Humans achieve results in ways that are chaotic yet effective. This is a trait I had not anticipated." Karen whispered to Ethan, "She's learning. She's starting to see why we're different." Ethan nodded. "Not just different, unique." Over the next few hours, the humans demonstrated various aspects of their behavior. They interacted with machines, improvising solutions to minor problems that the Zitherians had considered unsolvable without precise algorithms. They shared anecdotes showing humor, curiosity, and emotion. Lyra observed silently, her analytical mind working overtime, but also Something else. She was experiencing a new sensation. Wonder. At one point, Ethan held a simple mechanical device that had stopped functioning. The Zetherians had tried to repair it through strict protocols, but nothing worked. Ethan, relying on trial and error, intuition, and a little creativity, managed to fix it in minutes. Lyra's eyes widened. You did not follow procedure, yet the result is optimal. Ethan shrugged. Sometimes you have to trust your instincts, Princess. Not everything can be solved by calculation. Her advisors whispered among themselves, recording everything. They were fascinated by the human's unpredictability. Yet Lyra's focus never wavered from Ethan. Something about the way he acted, combining emotion with action, sparked a recognition she could not fully articulate. As the observation session concluded, Lyra finally addressed the humans. Your species is remarkable. You possess qualities that are not quantifiable. Emotion, spontaneity, creativity. These traits, though inefficient by our standards, are powerful. Ethan felt a surge of pride. Thank you, Princess. That's very kind. Lyra nodded slightly. Kindness is not the point. Understanding is. My people will need to study these traits further, and I wish to learn more firsthand. Karen and Marco exchanged astonished glances. Ethan could hardly believe what he was hearing. The princess, a member of a civilization far older and more advanced than humanity, wanted to learn from them. From humans. Over the next few days, Lyra continued her observations. She watched how humans collaborated under pressure, how they solved problems with improvisation, how they expressed joy, surprise, and even humor. Every gesture, every glance, every word added to her understanding. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were resilient, resourceful, and alive in ways Zetherians rarely experienced. Ethan noticed subtle changes in her behavior. She smiled more often, though subtly. She tilted her head as if considering things beyond data. Her eyes lingered on humans when she thought no one was watching. And once, when Ethan laughed at a minor joke, she allowed herself a faint, almost imperceptible laugh in response. For the humans, it was exhilarating. They had expected to be observed, perhaps even studied. But they had not anticipated the genuine curiosity and admiration from a being so advanced. And for Ethan, each glance from Lyra reminded him why humans had survived and thrived despite their limitations. Their unpredictability, their emotion, their courage, they were not weaknesses. They were strengths. That evening, as the delegation gathered for a meal, Ethan found himself seated near Lyra. She spoke softly, almost in a whisper, though the translator conveyed every word. Captain Rourke, your species is unlike any I have studied. You are fascinating. Ethan smiled, feeling a warmth he could not quite describe. Thank you, Princess, and you're unlike anyone I've ever met either. She tilted her head, considering his words carefully. Perhaps there is more to humans than my people have recognized. Perhaps there is value in emotion, in spontaneity, and imperfection. Ethan nodded. Yes, that's what makes us human. For a long moment they sat in silence, two species separated by biology, culture, and countless light years, yet connected by curiosity and understanding. In that moment, Ethan realized something profound. Humans were not just participants in the galaxy. They were unique. They had qualities no machine, no algorithm, and no advanced species could replicate. And perhaps in this vast universe, that uniqueness was exactly what would make them indispensable. The days on the Zetherian capital ship passed in a blur of lessons, demonstrations, and careful observation. Princess Lyra followed the human delegation wherever they went, studying their movements, listening to their conversations, and quietly noting the way they solved problems. Ethan Rourke noticed her subtle attentiveness, and a quiet pride grew inside him. Humans were being watched by one of the most advanced species in the galaxy, and they were not just surviving the scrutiny, they were impressing her. It started with small things. While other species would rely on strict protocols, humans experimented, improvised, and made mistakes, and then learned from them. Lyra watched as Marco Silva repaired a minor energy regulator using a combination of intuition, trial, and error, rather than following the Zetherian manual. She tilted her head, a gesture the humans had come to understand as her version of curiosity. Ethan demonstrated a human approach to problem-solving during a routine engineering session. The Zetherians had detected a minor fluctuation in the ship's energy core, something they classified as non-critical. They expected the humans to observe and take notes. But Ethan saw a pattern they had missed, a cascading energy leak that, if unchecked, could grow into a dangerous problem. Captain Rourke, one of the engineers, said politely, "We have calculated that the fluctuation will stabilize without intervention. Your species may observe, but intervention is unnecessary." Ethan frowned. "With all due respect, the numbers don't tell the whole story. There's a chain reaction forming, and if it escalates, it could be catastrophic." The engineer raised a brow, clearly skeptical. "Your prediction is based on intuition rather than logic?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, and sometimes intuition can see what calculations miss." Lyra, standing quietly behind him, watched his every move. She had begun to notice a pattern in human behavior. Where logic and algorithms failed, humans often succeeded because they acted without fear, because they took risks and thought creatively. She felt a spark of admiration for this species that could defy expectation and yet achieve remarkable results. Ethan quickly assembled a makeshift tool using spare parts and guided the engineers in a step-by-step approach that combined human improvisation with Zetherian precision. The engineers were hesitant at first, but they followed, watching as Ethan carefully manipulated the energy conduit. After tense minutes, the fluctuations stopped, stabilizing the core. A soft murmur spread through the room. Lyra's eyes shone. "You acted without complete calculation, yet the outcome is optimal. Fascinating." Ethan smiled, brushing a bead of sweat from his forehead. "Sometimes you have to trust your instincts, Princess. Logic is important, yes, but action matters too." The engineers, initially skeptical, began to nod in quiet approval. They had witnessed something unusual. Human ingenuity, combined with courage and adaptability, achieving a result even the most advanced algorithms had failed to predict. Over the next few days, Lyra accompanied the humans on several small excursions within the ship. They showed her games, shared jokes, and even explained the concept of human art and music. Each demonstration was a revelation for the princess. Humans laughed at things that made no sense, improvised solutions that seemed impossible, and acted with creativity that no Zetherian algorithm could replicate. One evening, as the ship traveled through a particularly dense asteroid belt, alarms blared across the vessel. The Zetherian crew scrambled to respond, their movements precise and calculated, but Lyra noticed hesitation in their analysis. The patterns of asteroid movement were shifting too quickly for their algorithms to predict. Ethan assessed the situation rapidly. "The sensors are correct, but your calculations are outdated. The asteroids aren't following the expected trajectory. We need to adjust manually, fast." An engineer hesitated. "Captain, our systems cannot adapt to sudden trajectory shifts. Manual intervention is dangerous." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Sometimes the safe path isn't the best path." "Let me try." Lyra stepped forward, intrigued. "Explain." Ethan gestured to the console. "Your system predicts asteroid paths based on past data. But space isn't perfect, it changes. Humans adapt in real time. We use observation, intuition, and action, not just calculation." With a calm focus, Ethan guided the engineers in manually adjusting the ship's shields and propulsion vectors. He called out instructions clearly, improvising as the asteroid patterns shifted unpredictably. Lyra watched in silence, marveling at the human ability to remain calm, think creatively, and act decisively under pressure. Minutes later, the danger passed. The ship sailed through the asteroid belt unscathed. The Zetherian crew, while relieved, looked at Ethan and the humans with a new understanding. They had witnessed the undeniable power of human adaptability. Lyra approached Ethan, her expression thoughtful. "Your species is remarkable. You act without complete certainty, yet you succeed where logic alone might fail. This is inefficiency in your terms, but effectiveness in reality," Ethan grinned. "It's called improvisation, Princess. And sometimes it's the difference between failure and success." That night, Lyra retired to her quarters, but sleep eluded her. She replayed the events in her mind, analyzing human behavior with a mixture of curiosity and admiration. Humans were flawed, yes, they were unpredictable, emotional, and sometimes reckless. But that unpredictability, she realized, was not a weakness. It was a strength. The next morning, she requested a private conversation with Ethan. In the quiet of the observation chamber, she asked, "Captain Rourke, How do humans remain confident in situations where outcomes are uncertain? Ethan leaned back, considering. We can't predict everything. Life doesn't always follow a plan. But humans trust each other, trust their instincts, and sometimes we trust our hearts. That's what keeps us moving forward, even in impossible situations. Lyra's silver eyes reflected a mixture of understanding and wonder. Trust, intuition, emotion. These are not measurable, yet you achieve results that my people cannot always achieve through calculation alone. Ethan nodded. Exactly. It's messy, yes, but it works. And sometimes the messiness is what makes humans, humans. Over the next week, Lyra accompanied the humans on more tasks. From engineering projects to cultural demonstrations, she learned how humans turned failure into opportunity, how they adapted when plans went awry, and how they relied on creativity, humor, and teamwork to solve problems. Every moment reinforced her growing admiration for their species. During a particularly tense simulation, a critical system on the ship failed completely. Zetherian engineers were at a loss. The algorithms designed to stabilize it could not cope with the anomaly. Ethan, observing the system, quickly identified a solution. Using a combination of human improvisation and Zetherian technology, he devised a new approach, rerouting energy flows in a way the Zetherians had never considered. Lyra watched as the system stabilized under Ethan's direction. You defy convention, yet you succeed. Ethan smiled. Sometimes the best solution is the one no one expects. She considered his words. Humans were not perfect. They were unpredictable, emotional, and often reckless. Yet they had something her species lacked. The courage to act, the creativity to adapt, and the wisdom to learn from mistakes. In a galaxy dominated by logic, humans were a force unlike any other, a species capable of turning chaos into advantage. That evening, as the humans gathered for a simple meal, Lyra approached Ethan once more. Captain, I wish to learn more from your people. Not just observation, but understanding. Your species is inspiring. Ethan felt a surge of pride. We'd be honored, Princess. Humans have a lot to teach, and we have a lot to learn from you as well. For the first time, he realized the full potential of this encounter. Humans were not just visitors in a galaxy filled with advanced civilizations. They were unique, resourceful, and capable of achieving greatness in ways no other species could. Their emotions, creativity, and intuition were not weaknesses, they were strengths. And Princess Lyra, a being from a species that valued logic above all, had begun to see it too. As the stars shimmered outside the ship's viewport, Ethan and Lyra shared a quiet moment of understanding. Two species, so different in every measurable way, were beginning to bridge the gap with curiosity, admiration, and respect. And in that moment, Ethan knew one thing with certainty. Humanity had a place among the stars, and they had only just begun to show what they were truly capable of. Humans were not perfect. They never claimed to be, but in their imperfection they were extraordinary. And Lyra, who had once paused in shock at a simple human compliment, now understood that humanity's true power lay not in what they could calculate, but in what they could feel, imagine, and achieve. The Zetherian capital ship slowly made its way toward Earth, a journey that would take several weeks. During that time, Princess Lyra stayed close to the human delegation, observing, learning, and slowly beginning to understand their ways. The more she watched, the more fascinated she became. Humans were unlike any species she had encountered before, emotional, unpredictable, and full of life. Ethan Rourke noticed the subtle changes in her behavior. She smiled slightly more often, tilted her head when she was curious, and occasionally laughed softly at the humans' jokes. It was almost imperceptible, but it was enough for him to see that Lyra was beginning to embrace the human way of life. One morning, Ethan invited Lyra to join him for a simple exercise on observation and problem-solving. They were in a chamber filled with a set of human puzzles and tools, designed to test creativity rather than calculation. Lyra studied the objects carefully, analyzing them with the precision of a Zetherian. Princess, Ethan said, these puzzles aren't about right or wrong. They're about trying, experimenting, and learning. Humans often learn more from mistakes than from success. Lyra raised an eyebrow. Mistakes are valuable, Ethan smiled. Yes, Sometimes the first idea doesn't work, but the next idea is better because of what you learned from the first one. That's how humans grow. Lyra picked up a small puzzle, turning it over in her hands. At first, she tried to solve it with precision, using logic alone, but after a few attempts she hesitated, then experimented freely, trying ideas that would seem random to a Zetherian observer. Slowly, the pieces began to fit together. She looked at Ethan, her eyes wide with surprise and delight. "I understand," she said quietly. "This method, it feels different." "But it works," Ethan nodded. "That's humans. We don't just follow rules. We explore, we experiment, and we create solutions that others might never think of." As the days passed, Lyra continued her education in human creativity. The delegation introduced her to simple joys that humans often took for granted: music, art, and storytelling. She listened to the soft strumming of a guitar and the rhythm of a song, feeling something she could not describe. The notes seemed to carry emotion, joy, sadness, hope, that no algorithm could replicate. During one evening gathering, Karen Liu shared a human story about perseverance. It was not an epic tale of war or conquest, but a simple story of a person who struggled, failed, and tried again until they succeeded. Lyra listened intently, fascinated by the way humans connected to one another through their experiences. "It is remarkable," she said. "You inspire one another, through words and experiences, not through authority or control. This emotion, it is powerful." "Yes," Ethan said softly. "Humans understand each other through stories, through art, through music. That's how we share knowledge and emotion at the same time." Lyra paused, reflecting on her own culture. The Zetherians had art, music, and stories too, but they were structured, precise, and bound by rules. Emotion was not forbidden, but it was rarely expressed openly. Humans, she realized, were alive in a way her people rarely allowed themselves to be. Their creativity and emotional depth were strengths, not weaknesses. One day, as the ship passed near Earth's orbit, Lyra requested a special visit. "I wish to see your planet firsthand," she said. "To experience your world as humans do." The human delegation agreed, thrilled at the opportunity to share Earth with her. When Lyra first saw the planet from orbit, she gasped. Oceans shimmered like liquid sapphire, clouds drifted across the sky in ever-changing patterns, and the greens and browns of land masses created a tapestry of life that no Zetherian simulation could replicate. "It is beautiful," she whispered. Ethan smiled. "It's home. It's full of life, and it's full of humans." When they arrived on the surface, Lyra experienced something entirely new: the chaos and wonder of human life. She saw children playing in a park, laughing freely, unafraid of mistakes or failures. She watched adults creating, building, teaching, and exploring. She listened to music performed live, heard the laughter and chatter of a crowd, and even tasted human food, flavors and textures she had never imagined. Each experience deepened her understanding. Humans were not just intelligent, they were alive in ways the Zetherians could not quantify. They were adaptable, resourceful, and full of emotion. They made mistakes, they took risks, and yet they thrived. Lyra realized that humanity's greatest strength was not in technology or calculation, but in their hearts and minds, their ability to feel, imagine, and act. One afternoon, Ethan took her to a simple human sport, soccer. At first, Lyra observed, analyzing the players' movements and strategies with the precision of a scientist. But soon she joined in, running, laughing, and improvising with a freedom she had never experienced before. She fell a few times, made mistakes, and adapted instantly. Each failure was a lesson, each success a thrill. "Princess," Ethan said, running alongside her, "you see, humans learn by doing. We grow by trying, failing, and trying again. There's joy in the process, not just the outcome." Lyra nodded, panting but smiling. I see it now. There is strength in imperfection. There is freedom in emotion." That evening, they gathered around a fire, a human tradition that fascinated Lyra. The flickering light cast shadows on their faces, and humans shared stories, songs, and laughter. Lyra listened, captivated by the sense of community and connection. She realized that humans' unpredictability was not chaos, it was creativity. Their emotions were not weakness, they were power. Ethan sat beside her, quietly observing. "It's more than just fun," he said. "Humans use these moments to bond, to inspire, to learn. We connect through experience, through feeling." That's what makes us strong. Lyra considered his words carefully. Strength. Through emotion. Connection. I have never seen it like this. My people value logic, control, efficiency. But humans thrive through unpredictability, creativity, and feeling. Yes, Ethan said. We adapt. We improvise. We support each other. And sometimes we surprise even ourselves. Over the next few days, Lyra participated in more human experiences. Painting, dancing, listening to music, storytelling, and even helping cook a meal. Each activity revealed another layer of humanity's uniqueness. She laughed, she learned, and she began to feel emotions she had never fully understood. Joy, surprise, wonder, even frustration. All mixed together, vibrant and alive. One evening, as the sun set over a human city, Lyra stood beside Ethan and looked at the horizon. Captain, I understand now. Humans are extraordinary, not because of technology or power, but because of who you are. Your creativity, your emotion, your courage. These are your greatest strengths. Ethan smiled, feeling a swell of pride. It's who we are. Messy, unpredictable, and imperfect, but we make it work. And when we work together, we can achieve amazing things. Lyra nodded slowly, her silver eyes reflecting the colors of the setting sun. I wish to take this understanding back to my people. They must see what I have seen. Humans are not just another species. You are something more. Ethan placed a hand gently on her shoulder. And they will. You'll be the bridge. You'll show them what humans are capable of. For the first time, Lyra felt a sense of hope that went beyond logic. Humans had shown her that emotion, creativity, and courage were not weaknesses. They were strengths. And in a galaxy where strength was often measured by technology and control, humanity's unique qualities were a force to be reckoned with. As night fell, the two of them looked at the stars. Lyra's mind replayed the experiences of the past weeks. The puzzles, the games, the laughter, the mistakes, the triumphs. She realized that humans were extraordinary not because they were perfect, but because they embraced life fully, with all its uncertainty and beauty. Ethan broke the silence. Princess, there's one more thing humans do. We celebrate life, even in the smallest moments. That's what gives us the courage to face the impossible. Lyra smiled softly, a genuine human-like expression that had begun to emerge naturally. I understand, and I am grateful to have learned it. The stars above shimmered, a reminder that the galaxy was vast and full of mysteries. But Lyra now understood that humans had something no algorithm, no technology, and no logic could replicate. Heart, courage, creativity, and the ability to inspire. The Zitharian capital ship hummed through the quiet of space as it made its way back to the homeworld. Princess Lyra stood on the observation deck, her silver eyes fixed on the stars. The experiences she had shared with the humans had changed her perception completely. Their emotions, creativity, and courage were not weaknesses. They were powers the Zitharians had never fully understood. Ethan Rourke approached quietly, giving her space yet remaining close. You've been quiet, he said. Lyra turned to him, a faint smile gracing her lips. I am processing everything I have seen. Humans are remarkable. Ethan nodded. It's more than remarkable. Humans adapt, survive, and inspire. We take risks, embrace mistakes, and learn from them. That's our strength. Lyra tilted her head thoughtfully. In my people, perfection and logic are valued above all. Emotion is carefully measured, controlled, and often suppressed. But humans thrive because they are imperfect, unpredictable, alive. Yes, Ethan said softly. We're messy, yes, but that messiness makes us strong. When they arrived at the Zitharian capital, the princess was greeted with her usual ceremony. Advisors and officials lined the halls, their expressions formal and controlled. But Lyra walked with a new energy, a quiet confidence that had not been there before. She had seen humans laugh in the face of danger, improvise solutions no algorithm could predict, and inspire each other with stories, music, and art. She carried that understanding now, and it would guide her words. In the council chamber, the advisors awaited her report. Their expectations were strict, a formal account of the human delegation's behavior, emphasizing logic, efficiency, and the possible risks of interaction. Lyra paused for a moment, considering how to present what she had learned. My people, She began, her voice calm but resolute. Humans are unlike any species we have encountered. They are emotional, unpredictable, and seemingly chaotic. Yet in that chaos lies their strength. They are creative, resourceful, and courageous. Their uniqueness is extraordinary. The advisors exchanged startled glances. One of them, a tall figure with sharp, angular features, spoke cautiously. "Princess, your description is unconventional. You suggest that imperfection, emotion, and spontaneity are strengths?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, humans succeed where calculation alone would fail. They inspire one another, adapt to impossible circumstances, and act with courage even when outcomes are uncertain. Their unpredictability is not weakness, it is power." The chamber fell silent. The advisor struggled to process her words. Logic, calculation, and precision had always been the foundation of Zetherian society. Now Lyra was advocating a radically different perspective. That emotion, creativity, and spontaneity could be more powerful than rigid calculation. One of the senior counselors spoke. "Cautiously, Princess, you claim humans possess qualities that our species does not. Are you suggesting that we value them?" Lyra's silver eyes met his. "I am suggesting that humans are worth admiration, respect, and partnership. Their uniqueness is a gift, not a flaw. They have taught me that strength is not always in precision or control, but in courage, creativity, and connection." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then slowly the head of the council leaned forward. "Princess, if what you say is true, then we have underestimated this species. They are extraordinary." Lyra allowed herself a faint smile. "Yes, and they will continue to surprise and inspire. My people must understand this. Humans are not just participants in the galaxy. They are a force, and their qualities are invaluable." News of Lyra's assessment spread quickly. The Zetherian people, long accustomed to perfection and control, were startled. Yet curiosity followed. For centuries they had measured intelligence and power in predictable ways. Now the unpredictability and creativity of humans offered a new perspective, one that was impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, back on the Zetherian capital ship, Ethan and the human delegation were invited to a grand audience with the council. Humans, who had once been cautious and uncertain among a species so advanced, now found themselves celebrated. The council acknowledged their courage, creativity, and ingenuity, highlighting the ways humans had impressed even the most advanced algorithms and minds. Ethan stood before the council, flanked by Ambassador Liu and Lieutenant Silva. Princess Lyra addressed him first. "Captain Rourke, you and your people have demonstrated that humanity is more than its technology. You possess qualities that are rare and powerful: courage, creativity, adaptability, and emotional strength. The Zetherians now see that humans are extraordinary." Ethan felt a surge of pride and humility. "Thank you, Princess. Humans are not perfect. We make mistakes and we fail sometimes. But we learn, we adapt, and we support one another. That's who we are." Lyra nodded. "And that is what makes you remarkable. Your imperfections are your strengths, your emotions your power. The galaxy has underestimated humans for too long. Now they must recognize your value." The council erupted into quiet discussion, their rigid structures challenged but slowly bending under the truth of Lyra's words. Human unpredictability, once seen as inefficiency, was now acknowledged as brilliance. Humans were not only survivors, they were innovators, adapters, and inspirers. That evening, after the council session, Ethan walked with Lyra through the observation deck. Stars stretched endlessly across the sky, each one a distant sun, a reminder of the vastness of the galaxy. "You've changed your people's perspective," Ethan said. "Humans made an impression far beyond what I imagined." Lyra smiled softly. "No, Captain. You and your people changed my perspective. I have seen courage, creativity, and heart that no machine or algorithm could measure. I have seen that humanity's greatest strength lies in being alive, in embracing emotion, and in daring to act even when the outcome is uncertain." Ethan chuckled softly. "That's exactly it. Humans take risks, make mistakes, and learn from them. And somehow we thrive." Lyra's gaze drifted to the stars. "I will carry this understanding back to my people. They will learn that humans are not just another species, they are extraordinary. And perhaps in the future humans and Zetherians will create something greater together." Ethan felt a quiet thrill. Humanity had always known the value of connection, creativity, and courage. Now the galaxy would see it too. The next day, Lyra and the human delegation were invited to witness a Zitherian ceremonial display, a traditional honoring of newly recognized allies. It was a ritual full of symmetry, precision, and light, a celebration of intellect and order. But now it included humans, and with them, a recognition of qualities that could not be measured: emotion, creativity, and heart. During the ceremony, Ethan noticed something subtle yet profound. Princess Lyra paused in the center of the grand hall, her silver eyes meeting his. For a moment, she looked almost human in expression, a faint smile playing on her lips. The words that had caused her shock weeks ago, "You're so beautiful I can't speak," echoed in his mind. That same honesty, spontaneity, and emotional courage had sparked curiosity, admiration, and understanding. It was not beauty alone that had moved her, he realized. It was the essence of humanity itself. The courage to feel, the willingness to act, the creativity to improvise, and the honesty to express it openly. Those qualities were what made humans extraordinary in the galaxy. Lyra stepped forward, addressing the audience. "The humans who have visited us are not just guests. They are teachers. They have shown us that life is not only about perfection, logic, or control. Life is also about courage, creativity, emotion, and connection. These are not weaknesses, they are strengths, and they make humans remarkable." The Zitherian audience listened in stunned silence. Some shifted uneasily, struggling to comprehend the new paradigm. But the seeds of understanding had been planted. Lyra had introduced a concept that would ripple through Zitherian society. That strength could come from unpredictability, emotion, and creativity. Ethan felt a hand on his shoulder and turned to see Lyra smiling. "Captain Rourke, your species is extraordinary," she said softly. "I paused in shock when you spoke to me weeks ago. Now I see clearly. Humans are powerful not because of technology or perfection, but because of who you are. Brave, creative, and alive." Ethan smiled, feeling the weight of her words. "Thank you, Princess. Humanity has always believed in heart, courage, and connection. And now, I think the galaxy will too." As the ceremony ended and the humans were escorted back to their quarters, Ethan reflected on everything that had happened. Humans, with all their unpredictability, emotion, and creativity, had left a lasting impression on one of the most advanced species in the galaxy. What had started with a simple human compliment, spoken honestly and without calculation, had grown into understanding, admiration, and recognition of humanity's unique strengths. For the first time, Ethan realized something profound. Humans were not just another species among many. They were unique, capable of inspiring and changing even the most advanced civilizations. Their courage, creativity, and heart were their greatest weapons, and the galaxy had only just begun to see it. Princess Lyra approached him one last time before he returned to Earth. "Captain Rourke, humans have taught me much. Your species is remarkable in ways I cannot fully explain. I will carry this knowledge back to my people, and they will see what I have seen. Humanity's place in the